Did a big name hospital and its staff actually cause greater harm to the family of a 10-year-old child who was suffering with extreme abdominal pain? Something that was going to cause her to lose her life, according to her doctors. But then the healthcare system stepped in, and according to the family, they took away everything they had, including their most precious possession, a mother. Well, hey folks, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and I'm working out of my New York City office today. You know, I was preparing to do an early morning court TV appearance with Julie Grant on opening statements regarding the new trial that's in front of us. It's a civil trial. We're used to seeing criminal trials, but this one is a civil trial stemming from a 2016 event where two parents, a mom named Beata and a dad named Jack, last name Kowalski, with a beautiful daughter named Maya, who was 10 years old at the time, worked with a major medical facility in hopes of saving their daughter from what one physician determined would be imminent death. I hope you'll take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button as we get going here, and thanks so much for your support of Profiling Evil. Now, the mother was a registered nurse, and that's really important in this particular investigation because when her daughter started getting sick, she started documenting, almost like a medical chart, everything that was going on in her daughter's life. Her husband yielded to her expertise in the medical field, and they went from doctor to doctor trying to find a cure for this child that was suffering incredible pain, so painful that they describe it as being like a burning sensation when something even like a feather would touch her skin. Now, some people suggest the family went a little overboard and finally found a doctor who prescribed high doses of ketamine to help the child. They saw some incremental improvements as they started the ketamine regimen, but the doctor knew of a place in Mexico that would do a high dosage of ketamine, so high that it would put the child in a coma for at least 5 days. Well, the family was running out of options, and so they took the child to Mexico. And, as predicted by the doctor, the child got better. In fact, she got so much better that she started to return to a normal life. But then a hurricane hit in Florida. I don't know if it was the stress or just a perfect storm, so to speak, but the child started having more stomach problems, so bad that the dad one night, while mom was working, took the child to the hospital, a hospital called John Hopkins. The staff became very concerned about the levels of ketamine that the child was under, and they soon started to suggest and then eventually charge the mother with child abuse. Well, mom pushed back, and she demanded to know what kind of tests were being run. She tried to hold the feet of the fire, so to speak, of the medical staff when they said they were going to run some tests. And it appears that there started to become some personality conflicts between medical providers, the physicians on down, and the family. Well, eventually, the medical providers went to the Division of Family Services and claimed that they believed that mom was a danger to the child's health and well-being, and a judge agreed. And for about 3 months, the mother was completely banned from seeing her child. She could have some supervised phone calls where a caseworker sat on the other end and listened to every bit of the conversation. All the while, Maya was crying for help, crying for her mother, crying for consolation. I joined Court TV today to talk about this case. But last night on my flight to New York, I watched the Netflix series Take Care of Maya, and holy cow, I was so emotionally consumed in that show. I don't know if I'm even a good, reasonable, balanced person now after watching that. I was so enraged that that mother wasn't given the chance to have face-to-face supervision while they worked through this criminal process that eventually caused her to commit suicide. Well, I went on Court TV with Dr. Carol Lieberman. to talk about this case. Now, again, I think I was a little bit jaded going into this after watching that video and not looking at all of the discovery from the defense in this case. But the thing I keep going back to is how on earth did they justify keeping this mother away from the child for so long? This is really a tragedy. Let's catch our comments on that show.
And I wanted to take a moment as I take my walk in Midtown here in a rainstorm to just talk a little bit about Court TV today and some of the things that I covered. Kind of set the stage for the little video clips you're going to be watching. And folks, if you haven't watched that Netflix documentary on Take Care of Maya, I would recommend it, although this is one rabbit hole that is emotional and really tragic when you think about what happens from the plaintiff's perspective. And of course, we're yet to hear all of the response from the defendant in this case, but bottom line is, if everything that the plaintiff is saying is accurate, then this is really a tragedy. But one of the questions that Julie asked me on Court TV this morning as I sat with Dr. Carol Lieberman is what my thoughts were as an investigator in this case. And you know, I've handled a couple of Munchausen by proxy cases over the course of my career. One of those cases involved working with a Philadelphia police detective who was investigating a woman named Marie No, and you might check that out. She was convicted of murdering several of her children in a Munchausen by proxy case. And then one that I personally handled happened to deal with a daycare provider and questions surrounding whether she was motivated by this rescuing of children and creating conflict and medical issues, and then going in and being the rescuer, this Munchausen by proxy. But what I think is learned in this particular case with Kowalski, law enforcement may be supportive. The hospital certainly is going to say that they felt like the child was in danger because of the mother's activities. But I'll tell you, after watching the doctor today as he presented, the family doctor, as he presented his thoughts about the family and the care that the children were receiving, it was really touching and frankly a great witness to call in this thing. But let's listen to what I had to say in regard from a professional standpoint in this case.
I have two great guests watching along with us now. I want to bring them in for some analysis. Forensic psychiatrist and body language expert and author Dr. Carol Lieberman is with us, and retired police commander, the host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King, is with us as well. Mike and Dr. Carol, good morning to you both. So nice to see you. Commander, it was great to see you in person at CrimeCon the other day. I still need to get around to posting all those pictures, but it was sure great to meet you. You know, the state or government, involvement here became problematic, and oftentimes those workers can do so much good and help children and help remove children from unsafe situations. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that throughout your years of service, Commander. Would you speak to that, the state interference in a private matter?
Well, I think, and first, Julie, I apologize. I'm not in court attire today. My clothing took a different flight than I did to New York last night, apparently.
Oh, so, you look great. Hopefully you get your suitcase back, though.
But the thing that I guess I'm so troubled by is there is a responsibility of the medical profession, the counseling profession, and the law enforcement profession to be guardians of these children in these kinds of situations. And so the fact that they merely are asking the questions or concerned doesn't trouble me as much as the polarization that occurred and the fact that it almost became a contest of wills. A mom who was trying her hardest to get care, and I've seen this happen in cases where family members of children who are injured are very aggressive in the hospital because they understand and they're watching their child moment by moment instead of a charge nurse who might have 30 patients that they're watching. But I'm so troubled by the fact that they polarized and then spent the rest of their time, in my opinion, trying to justify a decision they made early on. And I always go back to the Sherlock Holmes quote, Julie, of it's a capital mistake to theorize before you have facts, because you spend all of your time twisting the true facts to meet your theory rather than allowing the facts to unfold the truth.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Commander King.
Well, as the conversation went on, Julie also asked me what I thought as far as the state taking the position that they did in this particular case, and frankly, the hospital continuing to double down on the fact that they felt like the mother was a danger to this child. And if you will watch this case, the mother eventually commits suicide, thinking it's the only way that she can ease her own pain of not being able to talk to her daughter and to get her daughter home with her husband and brother, which is just such a tragedy to think about what happened. So I shared a few comments and again reflected on something that I've said many times to all of you here on Profiling Evil, and that is to quote the great quote from Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, that it is a capital mistake to theorize before you have information and evidence, because insensibly you spend all your time twisting facts to suit your theory rather than allowing the facts to unfold and develop a theory. I cannot for the life of me understand why they weren't more compassionate to that mother and allow her the opportunity to see her child, even if it was supervised, while she sat in that hospital. And then as you hear testimony about the fact that this child was left for 42 hours locked in a room with a toilet that was put across the room in hopes that they could film her walking to the toilet so they could prove she was faking it, it will absolutely incent you. In the end, the child didn't get up from her bed and go to the bathroom. She actually went to the bathroom in the bed all over herself. And I'll tell you, it is so tragic and disgusting.
All right, let's just step aside from the testimony for just a moment. I want to bring back in my guests, Dr. Carol Lieberman and Commander Mike King. We heard that 911 call. You hear her son in the background. It's just dreadful. For police, when you come upon a scene like that, where it appears that it's evidently a suicide, what else are you concerned about gathering in terms of information at that point?
You immediately want to know about the discovery, and you want to try, as uncomfortable as it is and as hard as it is even on the witnesses or those who discover these kinds of events, you need to separate them so that they don't somehow contaminate each other's story as you talk through that. You need to try to understand if there was any culpability or any responsibility on the people who called in, whether there was some staging going on or if it was a true discovery in this case. And I guess that's the part that has me so impacted by this entire case, Julie, is the emotional side of these kinds of investigations. And you're always concerned about a parent who might influence a child, but you can't lose the human side.
Isn't that the truth? Well said. Perfect note to end the segment on. Commander Mike King, I hope you get reunited with your luggage before we see you again. Much thanks.
Well, this case is going through the courts, and as you might guess, those people out there who have been accused in what they determined to be falsely accused are coming out of the woodwork to say it's happened to them and that this is a systemic problem, not only in the healthcare industry, but in government and in criminal investigations. I want to know what your thoughts are on this one, and I hope you'll take time to watch this case. I think it's a really touching case, and it has incredible impact on what could happen in the future when it comes to healthcare, especially where there's a suspected child abuse case involved and moms and dads who are kept from their children. Thanks for watching. And thanks for your support of Profiling Evil. We hope that you're checking us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and of course Twitter. And thanks again for your support during CrimeCon as I jumped on periodically throwing up some images. In fact, I'm going to just end with a couple of my favorite images.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from Profiling Evil, and I'm with the amazing Vinnie Politan from Court TV.
Amazing.
Amazing. And we're here at CrimeCon on Lord Nards and Crime After Crime. We're here.
Thanks so much for your support of Profiling Evil. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene.